Hi, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. I had talked to both of you last season a bit, so it's nice to get to talk again. I really enjoyed the second season, but so I wanted to start off, Natasha. Let's start with you. Obviously, after the surgery, she has some issues with certain things, and things aren't going as she planned. So, can you sort of talk about that and tease about what we're gonna sort of see this season in relation to that?
Yeah, so we pick up with Haley 6 months post-op, double reconstruction or sorry, double mastectomy and reconstruction surgery rather. And it's her finding her footing back at her job and her new self and sort of her journey along the way of discovering, some of the trauma that she's buried in her past, and it's kind of coming to the surface again as she's navigating this new life and this new chapter in her life. And it turns out to be a lot more difficult than she I think was expecting. And so a lot of things sort of come to the surface, and it's really just like her human kind of experience, and we're following her journey and all of those turmoils and hardships.
All right. Morgan, now your character, she deals a lot this season with like keeping her own identity and not losing that. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I think Crystal's really going through it because she's going to she's a medical student now, and she's also working full time as a flight nurse still, and holding on to your identity under a very male dominated, white dominated field is really hard for her to navigate. And she's trying to fit in, and she's trying to be the best that she can in that field. I think she's used to being a person that's in charge and knows exactly what she's doing. And now she's in a moment in life where she doesn't know what she's doing. And she's a student again. So I think she's really trying to lean on her supervisors and look for their advice, but now she's trying to find her own way and her own voice. And how do you do that while balancing the two? So I think she does find her way eventually, but it takes a little while to get there.
That's true. I think the more I thought about it, I think we're probably going to have to talk specifically about the drug issue, or we can't really see how, because the more I thought about it, like, I don't know how much we could talk
Let's
about
just
it.
put it out there.
Yeah. But can you talk about sort of how their relationship is tested with that, and can they get over that? Can they get back together, and can they trust each other and everything and get through those problems, I guess?
Yeah, I think, the beautiful thing about the relationship between Crystal and Haley is that it goes apart and it comes back together in the first season. And I think with this one, both of the characters are really going through something very challenging in their life. And it's really hard to be there for one another when both are hurting. So, and I think they realize that. And I think there's still a deep love for each other throughout the season. But I don't know if Natasha wants to hop on that.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. When two parties are hurting, it's like, I think Haley and Crystal are both on their journey of self in this season in two very extremely different ways. And while Haley is dealing with all of this trauma and addiction and really sort of hitting rock bottom, is I think and then Crystal then feels betrayed that, she's not communicating all of these things, and that she's going behind her back and using her. And there's like some pretty pivotal moments that, drive them apart. But again, it is a really beautiful thing that at the end of the day, these are two people who deeply care about each other and have a really beautiful friendship. And I think it's also just something that people can relate to, in the sense that, friendships and growing, you go through this, and it's a part of the human experience, and it's a part of growing up and, discovering things about yourself and whatever. And I think the fact that they deal with themselves and focus on themselves and do the work on themselves to then come together again is really beautiful, and I think sets them up for an even stronger friendship.
Can you expand on those some about her kind of, I guess, trying to do it on her own and struggling with that? Because obviously for a good portion of it, she does not want help.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with not wanting to accept what has happened. And I think there's a lot of regret that Haley holds in her life, and with, when it comes to her mom and how things ended, and how, she never got to say goodbye. And we find out that, that was actually a choice that she made out of just pure fear. And there's a ton of regret there and a ton of hurt that, in order to accept and acknowledge, you have to acknowledge. And I think that the whole theme here is that she doesn't want to acknowledge this. She doesn't want to accept this. And so she's, grasping at anything she can to try to numb this pain and this deep hurt that she's been running away from for years. And in that, it just kind of spirals out of control and really puts her in a dark place. And it, inevitably comes to a head when somebody she really cares about kind of gives her the ultimatum. And that was the push that she needs. And yeah, it's a heartbreaking season for Haley, but also a really beautiful one in the way that it ends, and the acceptance and that she comes to terms with eventually.
Now, Morgan, you have a relationship with Dr. Yana this season. She's kind of her mentor and helping her in what we talked about, like, making decisions on how to be true to herself. So can you talk about her, working with her and kind of their, I guess, friendship that sort of develops, even though they're still, boss and student?
Yeah, I think Crystal really puts Dr. Yana on a pedestal, and rightfully so. And she's a phenomenal doctor. And I think she really just wants to earn her trust and show that she's going to be a good doctor one day. I think with Dr. Yana, the field has really been down on her, and you see that in some of the scenes in the earlier episodes too, where one of the doctors is talking back to her, thinking that she's not actually who she is. She's not the head of ER. Yeah. So I think Crystal, watching that, she's seeing that this is what she's going into. And I think Crystal, in a way, is trying to tell Dr. Yana, you can be proud of yourself and be proud of who you are and all that you are still within this field, and still be yourself. And that's a beautiful thing that we can bring of ourselves to the field. And what's any industry if it isn't changing? Medicine is always changing, and any field is always changing. So I think we have to be adaptive. And I think Crystal is just trying to find her footing with that, along with Dr. Yana. And I think they're both kind of teaching each other things as they go along. Both of them can be a little hard-headed too. And I think that's where they clash, and then they come back together as well. And I think they build a really beautiful friendship at the end with a lot of mutual respect for each other. So yeah, I think that's that.
Now, Natasha, one of the big things I think this season is Haley's growing relationship with Weezer. So yeah. Can you talk a bit about that, and about also working with Aaron in that respect as well?
Yeah, I mean, that was a really fun and relationship that, I don't know about you guys, but I never saw coming. So when we had the meeting at the beginning of the season, and we Julie has a one-on-one with us, and she kind of tells us what the arc and what our character is going to go throughout the season. She, that was one of the big ones, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. But it was so fun, and Aaron is such a pleasure to work with. He's just like really the best of the best, and so respectful, and just we had so much fun. He's a really great friend. So yeah, and then I think in terms of Haley and Weezer's relationship and how it develops, it really is based on, I think, two people who are hurting a lot, and both going through some painful and hard times, and therefore are able to come together and be there for each other. And I think Haley specifically is longing for love and longing to be loved and like taken care of. Like, I think she's just so broken that this relationship is really based off of a love that two people have for each other, who are going through, who need it. So yeah, it was really fun to play with that with Aaron, and go throughout the whole season, having more scenes together then, because we didn't have many scenes together last season. So it was fun to be able to act alongside him. And I wouldn't want to have done it with anyone else. He's such a great human being.
And then Morgan, obviously things aren't what we necessarily expected between her and Jeremy this season. So can you sort of talk a bit about that and working with him?
Yeah, I mean, Braden's just a rock star, and he's so awesome to work with. I think that both of them are on their own journeys of finding themselves, and he wanted, there's a bit of a surprise in that first episode where he shows up at work and Crystal's like, "What are you doing here?" And now is or is a paramedic. So I think Crystal has a lot of admiration for what he's done, but I think she's also really hurt that the person that she does love very deeply and has known her whole entire life is kind of moving away from her, and they're kind of growing apart. And I don't think that's necessarily what she wants, but it's I think it's just the trajectory that they're on. And who knows what's going to happen in the future for the two of them. But I think there's still a lot of love and care for Crystal and Jeremy.
Now we're about out of time, so just to sort of quickly, obviously you guys, you talked to me last time about, learning kind of some of the medical stuff and that, but do you struggle with like the medical jargon and remembering how to do different things? Because I would think that could be something that could cause a problem for the two of you.
I think you have more medical jargon than I do now, being a doctor.
Yeah.
So you can speak on that. I feel like mine's not too bad.
You can get around.
I mean, yeah. Sometimes you get caught up on the words. Sometimes there's big words, like photorhabdisluminescence. That was a hard one to get out there. I had to keep saying it over and over and over again to get it right. Yeah, you say it enough times, then it starts to sink into your brain a little bit.
My thing is when we're like rushing through the doors of the ER, and there's like a million things, and we have to go at a certain pace, and there's like people crossing, and it's like 40-year-old male, da 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 da, ba 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 boo, ba ba ba, and you have to just like say it super quick, and there's a certain those are the ones that I really have to like drill into my brain. But other than that, yeah, it's not too bad.
I was going to say, I think you would also maybe forget which patient is which patient after a while, after you do too many of them, because they a lot of times more than one in an episode.
We've definitely done that.
All right, but the only other thing I was going to mention is what about playing volleyball in the snow? I don't know, was it really cold? Was that real snow? I mean, you guys are in Canada. I assume it probably was at least really cold, even if it wasn't really snow.
Oh, no. That was real snow, real cold, real everything. That was a tricky day. Morgan, you lucked out. You didn't have to partake.
I didn't have to do that one.
Yeah, we were all in our, actually I was the most.
You had more clothes on, so.
Yeah, which was great. It wasn't too bad, but I felt bad for all of the guys, having to dive on the snow in their bathing suits and whatnot. But it was a lot of fun. It was actually funny because we had like a day of like volleyball rehearsal to make sure we all kind of knew what we were doing, and practicing some of the falls and whatnot. So yeah, it was honestly, and that was like in the first like few weeks of filming, I want to say. So it was also just like a really great bonding experience for us to all come together, and we had some new faces this season. Sydney Kuhn and Ryan was a bigger part this year, so it was fun for both of them to be a part of that scene and be able to like I said, it was like a cool team bonding experience.
Yeah, it was a fun scene. Like I said, it looked very cold, so
it was. Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you both of you. I appreciate it.